Hello everyone, this is the next video to help explain the next part of statistics for you. This is the third part of statistics and it's called averages. Now, when we talk about averages, we're actually talking about three different types of averages. And here's the first average, which is mode. The second type of average we're going to look at is median. And then finally, the third average is called mean. So you have to know what each one of these words mean, and we'll take an example of each one. If there's something you don't understand, just pause the video, go back on it, and you can figure it out from there. So let's have a look at the first one. The first one is the mode. The mode is the number that occurs most often, and we'll look at an example of that in a second. The median is the next one we're going to look at, and the median is always the middle value once the list has been put in order, and this is really important that you put it in order first. And then finally, the last one is called the mean. And this one here is what we normally call average in day-to-day language. When we talk about, let's get the average of something, this is the one we're normally talking about. But strictly speaking, we should call it the mean, because all three of these are actually all averages. So sometimes there can be a little bit of confusion over the word average. Let's have a look at the mode and we'll see what we can figure out. So let's make a bit of space. So let's start off with a quick example. So let's say your question says, find the mode. And what it will do is we'll give you a list of numbers. So let's take something simple. So if we take the number 1, and then we take another 1, and then 2, and 2, and then a couple of 3s. And these could be scores on a spelling test or something like that in primary school. And that's it there. So this represents all the different people. So the first student in the class got 1 out of 5. Another student in the class got 1 out of 5. Another student got 2 out of 5. And so on and so forth. When you're looking at these to find the mode, it's really easy. All you have to do is find the number that happens the most. Well, if you look at the number 1 happens 2 times. The number 2 happens 2 times. The number 3 happens 4 times. And then the number 4 and the number 5, they just happen once each. So which number occurs the most often? Well, the answer is 3. So that's going to be your mode. So in this particular example, your mode is 3. It's the number that happens the most. And it's the same like that for all examples. Bear in mind that there's not always going to be a mode. So you may be given a set of numbers like this: 1, 3, 5, and 7. Now, in this particular example, there's going to be no mode because there is no number that happens the most. They all occur once each. Another example that you might have is something like this, where you have 1 and 1, and then you have 2, and then you have 6 and 6. Now, in this example, you can see the number 1 occurs twice, and you can also see the number 6 occurs twice. So in this particular one, you actually have 2 modes. So you have your mode is 1 and 6. They're the numbers that occur the most. And that's it for mode. There's really nothing else. And the order doesn't matter because all you're going to do is count up what number occurs the most. So order makes no difference. However, in the next one, order is going to matter. And this is the median. So we'll make some space. So the median is the middle value once the list has been put in order. So let's take an example of a list that is already in order. So let's take this. So we've got 1, 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And as you can see, this is in numerical order, starting at 1 and finishing up at 6. Now, if we look at this, what we're trying to do is find the middle value. Now, trying to find the middle value sometimes can be difficult, but if you actually look at this, 3 is the middle value. And the reason why 3 is the middle value is there is 3 numbers on this side, here, and on the other side of 3, there is 3 numbers here. Now, this is just one way of doing it. There's other ways to work out this. So that means 3 is the middle value. So in this particular example, you just write down median equals 3. And it's as simple as that. You just find the middle number. Now, you may sometimes get, of course, larger sets And sometimes the sets will actually be out of order. So let's say we take something that is out of order. So let's take the next example. And in this one, we'll make up some numbers. So we got 1 and we got 6, 4, 9, 10. And let's go for 18. We got 1, we got 2, and we've got 7. So let's have a look at this. So this is out of order. So the first thing you do with median is you put it in order. So if you want to put this in order, you start with the lowest number. And it's a good habit to try and tick off the numbers as you go through. So 1 clearly is the lowest number. So we start with that, 1. And that is gone. So we can cross it off. There is another 1 here, and that has to be counted as well. So we cross that off. And then you go through your numbers and see what the next one's going to be. The next one's going to be 2. So we can cross that one off. And then looking through the numbers, the next number is going to be 4. So that's gone. The next lowest number is 6. So we pop in 6. Then the next one is going to be 7. And by crossing them off, it ensures that we don't leave anything out. 9 is going to be the next one. Then we've got 10. And finally, we've got 18. And that's gone as well. So we've used up all our numbers. Now we are in order. And once you're in order to find the median, again, you do the same thing. You're just going to try and find the middle one. So how do we find the middle one? One of the ways you can do it, you can start crossing off numbers at the start and at the end, but sometimes it's easy to figure it out. So I'm looking at this one and I'm guessing that 6 is my middle number. Now let's see if I'm right. If 6 is the middle number, there should be the same amount of numbers to the left of 6 and to the right of 6. So I'm looking at 7 all the way up to 18. And I can see there that there's 4 numbers there. And on the left-hand side of 6, I can see that I have 1, 1, 2, and 4, and there's also 4 numbers there. So we can see that 6, bang in the middle of all of those. So in this particular answer, now we can write down the median equals 6. But it is vital that you have to put it in order first. This won't work if it's not in order. Let's take one more example of the median where it doesn't work out as simple as that. So let's take the next example. Let's say we've got 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, and 13. And just for argument's sake, I've already put this in order for you. All right, so it's in order. That's good. Now we've got to find the middle number. So trying to find the middle number here is going to be maybe a little bit difficult. Let's have a look. So what if is it 8? So let's check 8. Well, we've got 3 numbers here. And on the left-hand side of 8, then we've got 4 numbers there, and we've only 3 numbers here. So this is a problem. The same thing is going to happen if we pick 6. So if we allow 6 to be the one in the middle, we have exactly the same problem. We've got 4 numbers here, and we've got only 3 numbers here. So what do we do in this situation where we don't have a middle one? Well, what we actually do is we take 2 numbers in the middle, and we're going to take 6 and 8. Now, let's have a look at this and see if this works out. If I take 6 and 8 as my middle numbers, I have 3 numbers on the left, and I have 3 numbers on the right. So when you're ever doing this, you will only ever have 1 number exactly in the middle, and if you don't, you pick the 2 numbers that are in the middle. In this particular case, it's 6 and 8. But it doesn't stop there. You don't just write down the median as 6 and 8. What you need to do is you need to try and find the number that's in the middle of 6 and 8. Now this is one way you can do it. So what number is in the middle of 6 and 8? Halfway between 6 and 8. And the answer, of course, is 7. So in this one, you can write down the median is 7. Now, it's not always going to be super obvious what the middle number is. So there is another way of actually getting this. So what you do is you take the 6 and the 8 and you add them together. And when you add the 2 numbers together, you divide by 2, which is how many numbers you're adding together. So 6 plus 8 on the top is 14. It's 14 divided by 2, and 14 divided by 2 is 7, and that's your median. You can do it either way. So you can do it this way, which is adding the two numbers and dividing by 2, or you can eyeball it. You can see, okay, well, I know 7 is in the middle of 6 and 8. It depends on how complicated the example is. And that's it for median. Okay, and then we're going to move on to the last one, which is mean. And this is traditionally average. So let's take an example of how to find the mean. So let's say the question says, find the mean of the following list of numbers. And it gives us a bunch of numbers. So let's say we'll take 2, we've got 5, we've got 7, we've got 3, and we've got 3. So we want to find the average. So these could be results in a test. So one student got 2 out of 10 marks, the next student got 5 out of 10 marks, the next student got 7, the next student got 3, and then someone else got 3 as well. And what we want to try and do is look at all of the data, all of the results, and see, is there a number that might try to describe all of those numbers? In other words, can we find the average of these numbers? So anytime you want to find the average of a list of numbers, the first thing you do is you add up all the numbers. So we've got 2 plus 5 plus 7 plus 3 plus 3. So this is called the sum of the numbers. And when you add them all up, you divide by how many numbers you're dealing with. So as you can see, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 numbers. So we're going to divide by 5. So it's the sum of the numbers where you add them up all over how many numbers you have. And then you work out this to get your final answer. So let's have a look. Let's add up this top line. We've got 2 plus 5, which is 7, and then another 7 is 14, and another 3 is 17, and another 3 is 20. So the top line adds up to 20. The bottom line is 5, and of course 20 over 5 means 20 divided by 5, which means 4. 20 divided by 4. So this here is your answer. This is the mean. And again, this is often called average. We won't call it average, we'll call it mean. That's all there is. There's nothing else to it. If you get a longer set of numbers, you still do the same thing. You add up the numbers on the top and you divide by how many numbers you have on the bottom, and then you get your final answer. Okay, if anybody has any questions, just email us and let us know. Thank you.